body that's insulated and protected from the political sway, is nonpartisan, and has a responsibility to call balls and strikes, because mental health is really a thing. Mm-hmm. And it shouldn't just be ignored. And they also have a commitment not to weaponize it or be silly about it. And so basically in America we have the Congressional Budget Office, the CBO. CBO does not work for Republicans, does not work for Democrats. It is funded out of the budget, and their job is to score any legislative bill that is written. So if you write a bill that says, hey, we're going to change health care, their job is to do the math. Yep. And then to provide senators and congresspeople, based on the bill that you've written, here is the downriver results of what will happen in the country's economy.
Right.
And they just give you the math. Now, Republicans or Democrats may take issue with that math and say, no, they're wrong. But it's very hard to claim that the CBO is on one side. They're supposed to be on the side of math. And so right. Jimmy Carter's proposal was create a CBO, a Congressional Budget Office, of mental health. And basically, their job is to evaluate every president annually. And they do not release the results. The results are released only to a commission of senators, whose job it is to evaluate presidential fitness. And they take that job seriously. Just like, there's commissions of senators on foreign relations that take that job seriously, and they don't politicize every single thing. So what do you think about something like that?
I would be in favor of that, especially in the sense that, with the caveat that it happens on a regular basis. You said yearly.
Yeah.
Or you get elected into a new position.
Yes.
You do that. I don't like the idea of it being done based off a call.
Right.
Like, okay, now we're going to do this thing.
You tweeted something.
You did this. We're going to do this.
Okay.
Then I think it could be weaponized. Whereas I think if it's a regular routine checkup, like a physical checkup,
right,
then I think that may help mitigate some of the weaponization or pathology.
Yeah. I like that. And I like the idea of like a bipartisan group of senators, let's say 5 and 5, and they are the ones who can activate the commission. They're the ones who can say, we're activating the therapists. Go in there and please evaluate the president. Mr. President, per our rules, per law, you have to submit to this evaluation. Mm-hmm. It will be kept private. The results are not going to be public record. They are only revealed to the Senate. They are highly, highly classified. I mean, that is tip-top classification. Like, as important as the nuclear codes are, is the exact mental health evaluation status of the President of the United States. Mm-hmm. That is so intimate and penetrative, it is absolutely top secret classified. So only those senators would have access to that, not even the rest of the Senate or the Congress. And then all they would do is reveal the summary. The president is healthy. The president has been declared competent to do his job per our rules, and that is it. Mm-hmm. They do not speculate about his childhood or about any of the details of the report. Even the report might not even have all the details. It might just have a summary and a diagnosis and a prognosis or something to that effect. The president has mild depression. Prognosis is good. Recommend brief interventions and sertraline, or something like that. So I don't know. But when I see the French government actually doing this, the losing political candidate being required by government to go get a psychiatric evaluation because of her tweets, it's very prescient. Yeah. Here in America, that's like, whoa, that actually happened in another democracy.
Right.
That's a big moment.
And it's easy to look at this and from one side be like, yeah, we should totally do that.
Get them.
Because I look at it from the perspective that I sit in.
Yeah.
But then when you flip it around and we're like, well, using like, as you said, the Trump going after Hillary with that, and like, of course, well then maybe now I'm not.
Yes.
I didn't mean it that way.
And that's something I've noticed on Twitter a lot, is a lot of people include me in things where they're saying the president's mentally ill, we need people to go help him or whatever. And I always decline to be brought into that conversation. Like, A, I'm not very political on Twitter, but B, I'm just like...
To be brought in the conversation. No one's contacting you to go assess the president.
Well, I can't confirm or deny. I can't... I mean, and just to be clear. No. It's these calls to action where people are like trying to get everybody to agree and go, right, we need to do this. Let's write our senator and ask for this. And I'm always like, whoa. I do not feel comfortable. The spirit of the call is wrong. And also, this is going to blow back. Every single president is going to be evaluated by a request of their enemies. Bill Clinton Now we have to evaluate him. Is he a sex addict? Is he, a pathological liar? How many politicians could be identified as pathological liars? And we'd have to go in there and diagnose them.
Well, and then you brought up the point, too, of certain things being pathologized that maybe are not significant.
Not pathologies.
Hypothetically. Like if the Clintons had an open relationship.
Right. Like an open sexual relationship.
Yeah, that came out. And then knew. Then he can't be president.
The day he started dating Monica, Hillary was like, yeah, I'm fine with that. Just stay out of the press. Yeah.
Right.
Why is that a bad thing? But if a therapist is brought in to pathologize that, we go, okay, I've diagnosed it as thing. And now they go, well, he's not equipped. They can't be serving. The president should be at a higher standard or whatever, so... No, but I think it's really interesting stuff. So I think, so I want to get your final statement on this. Okay. When you look at the mental health of the president and the unique discussion that's occurring in our society that involves our profession for the first time in a long time, our profession is very important in the eyes of a lot of people when it comes to the power that runs our nation. What is your thought about our place in that conversation? What role should mental health professionals have when it comes to the evaluation of the president of the United States? It's a big question.
That's a tough question.
It's a big one.
I think in some sense we kind of become educators.
Okay.
And, because I think now there's a lot more interest in mental health. It's starting to become a bigger issue. Like we've got people coming out and talking openly about mental health. We talked a couple episodes about Kevin Love.
They're owning it.
Yeah, and people are coming out and saying, yeah, this is a real struggle. So there's more people interested in it. I think now is an ideal time for all of us to become educators and kind of teach the public and be like, yeah, this isn't a scary thing.
Right.
There are times in which mental health can become such an obstacle that it prevents people from doing or from functioning in certain ways. But let's have an open, honest discussion about this. This isn't something we need to be afraid of.
I agree with that.
I see that's kind of the role that we play. Now, the other part too...
But no official role.
I like the idea of public officials, especially federal, going through an assessment process and treating mental health just as we would treat physical health.
Yeah.
I think that's a great idea. I forgot where I was going to go with
that. But I think that is the middle ground. And so I'll weigh in on that. I believe that mental health matters. And I also believe, and I'll actually take a little bit of a different view than you, I will not limit the evaluation to function, right? Because perspective matters. If we look at your schizophrenia and you're inclined to paranoid delusions, even if that subtly affects what you do, it could have absolutely huge ramifications. And so I'm not even going to wait to find out. I will make sure that the world knows, or I'll make sure the committee knows, and then they are supposed to be the ones that have all the consequences of making decisions, right? That's not my job. But if the United States said, let's create an independent commission, nobody gets to know the results except for this little group of senators, and that's their job. It's top secret classified, but every single person gets evaluated. I'd be cool with that.
There's a lot to unpack here, too, because then you have thresholds you have to talk about.
And secrets, too.
Well, but then also in your example, I mean, then you're saying, well, I'm just going to report what I see, and I'll let this congressional office decide whether or not that is an obstacle.
Right.
Okay, so in your example of schizophrenia, that makes sense. What if it's major depressive disorder?
Right.
And then now you're going to let congressmen decide how that affects their functioning?
Sure.
Then you're just pushing it off onto them.
I'm giving them the power.
Right.
And so the best, maybe you insulate it even further and you say, I will not tell this commission anything, not what was shared with me, not even a diagnosis if I have one. I will only show you red or green light. But that puts absolute power in the hands of a shrink.
I know, and that's scary too. There's no panacea.
Power.
There's
absolute power.
Right. There's no easy way to figure this out.
Well, I feel like when I look at this whole situation, Nick, I become very House of Cards, Frank Underwood about it. I don't know if you've ever seen that show, but it's about a corrupt politician who ultimately takes over the world by just swindling people. And so that's going to be my new goal. I think if I can convince enough people to give me absolute power to evaluate the president, I could do this. I could create a puppet government. The whole thing will be great. So,
well, I mean, the easiest solutions, I think, here are anarchy or monarchy.
Yeah. There you go. Let's just simplify it. We don't need all this complexity. But
I'm tired of thinking about it.
If you are out there and you are a THERAPAL, you're part of our community, and you're wondering, what kind of tone do you think would maybe be appropriate? My answer to you guys is this. Please always have a generous tone with mental health. If you weaponize it and scold politicians with it or use it as a cudgel, what happens inadvertently in your tweets and your Facebook posts is you might scare somebody out there who is going through that. And now they're scared that they're going to be villainized or seen as a threat because of what they're going through. And, that a mob of pitchforks is going to come for them. So I just encourage you to always keep that audience in mind, even as you may be calling for something legitimate, like evaluation of a person who's in power. Just always please be very generous and very sensitive to those who are suffering. And, guys, my policy is always going to be I don't want to see mental health weaponized ever. I don't want to see it used against people. I want to see people encouraged to get help and not to be picked on. So even if they're a very powerful person with very important rules and very important, influence, I would like to see everybody get help if they need help. And for that to be a private experience that they can get the healing they deserve, because I think it's a human dignity question. So just like I think if the President of the United States was having chest pain, I want him to have the freedom to privately go get some support for that and not have to, worry about politics. So
right.
It's a complicated issue, guys. But anyway, I just hope our tone is always generous. I hope our community is always a group that people feel safe among. And that's the most important thing to me. Do you feel safe with the THERAPALs? You should, because we're very affirming and kind-hearted folks. And we like sushi.
Love sushi. All right, well, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, a listener asks if they're guilty of sexual assault. You're listening to Pod Therapy.
Hey, listeners, did you know there's a cadre of mental health enthusiasts who help support this show every week? That's right, you can join them by becoming a patron of the show. For $1 a month, you can become a THERAPAL, a member of the official Pod Therapy fan club. For $5 a month, you can become a THERAPOD, a member of the dapper, sophisticated, three-toed reptilian special forces branch. Or, if you feel like being a hero, for $20 a month, you can become a THERAPRODUCER, a member of the Elite 8 who contribute messages to our show during commercial breaks and get a producer credit in their show notes. If you'd like to join the party to help make this show possible and tap into the special content for patrons only, you can go to patreon.com/therapy and sign up. Again, that's patreon.com/therapy. We're back. You're listening to Pod Therapy, and our next question is from somebody on the other side of the Me Too movement. All right, so here we go. This is a raw and real letter from an anonymous person. Did I commit sexual assault? I'm writing today about something that's been on my mind for some time now, and I wanted to seek some resolution and maybe help some other people who might be listening. I believe it's likely that approximately 15 years ago, I touched a woman intimately without her explicit consent. In my research, the Department of Justice defines this as sexual assault. We were in a hotel room at a professional conference. Peers and I were hanging out after a long day, just shooting the breeze, and somehow I ended up laying down in bed with two women. One was a woman I had been crushing on for a long time. I don't recall if she was in bed first. I don't recall if she joined me. All I know now is that we were both in the bed. I remember spooning her. I remember placing my arm over her side, and my hand ended up near her waist. I remember my hand was in physical contact with her skin. At the time, I believed that we were cuddling, but now I'm not quite so sure. My older and wiser brain is afraid that she was terrified and embarrassed and didn't want to make a scene, or that woman did not give enthusiastic and explicit consent. None of my alarm bells went off that night, but I know that what I wanted to believe was powerful enough to silence all but the loudest of alarms. After the event, I remember reaching out to her. She did not respond. At the time, this led me to believe that she did not wish to pursue a friendship or relationship. Now, I worry that the silence meant so much more. There is so much that is unknowable, but I am re-examining my life in light of the Me Too movement, and I am terribly afraid of what it means about me if this was indeed unwanted touch. Part of me wants to try and figure out her name, find her, and apologize. I have the desire to tell her how dirty I feel, how no part of me ever wanted to make her feel threatened, that all I ever wanted was love and affection, and I did not understand how having a room full of people could trigger a freeze response. I was waiting for a no, when what